So, Marge, are you unmuted?
Marge, I think we unmuted her. I think she has to unmute herself. Looks like she's.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When God began to create the heavens and the earth was without shape or form. It was dark over the deep sea, and God's wind swept over the waters. God said, "Let there be light," and so light appeared. God saw how good the light was. God separated the light from the darkness. God named the light day and the darkness night. There was evening and there was morning, the first day. God said, "Let there be a dome in the middle of the waters to separate the waters from each other." God made the dome and separated the waters under the dome from the waters above the dome, and it happened in that way. God named the dome sky. There was evening and there was morning, the second day. God said, "Let the waters under the sky come together into one place so that the dry land can appear." And that's what happened. God named the dry land earth, and he named the gathered waters seas. God saw how good it was. God said, "Let the earth grow plant life, plants yielding seeds and fruit trees bearing fruit with seeds inside it, each according to its kind throughout the earth." And that's what happened. The earth produced plant life, plants yielding seeds, each according to its kind, and trees bearing fruit with seeds inside it, each according to its kind. God saw how good it was. There was evening and there was morning, the third day. God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night. They will mark events, sacred seasons, days, and years. They will be lights in the dome of the sky to shine on the earth." And that's what happened. God made the stars and two great lights, the larger light to rule over the day and the smaller light to rule over the night. God put them in the dome of the sky to shine on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. God saw how good it was. There was evening and there was morning, the fourth day. God said, "Let the waters swarm with living things, and let birds fly above the earth up in the dome of the sky." God created the great sea animals and all the tiny living things that swarm in the waters, each according to its kind, and all the winged birds, each according to its kind. God saw how good it was. Then God blessed them. "Be fertile and multiply and fill the waters in the seas, and let the birds multiply in the earth." There was evening and there was morning, the fifth day. God said, "Let the earth produce every kind of living thing, livestock, crawling things, and wildlife." And that's what happened. God made every kind of wildlife, every kind of livestock, and every kind of creature that crawls on the earth. God saw how good it was. Then God said, "Let us make humanity in our image and resemble us so that they may take charge of the fish of the sea and the birds in the sky, the livestock and all the earth and all the crawling things on earth." God created humanity in its own image. In the divine image, God created them, male and female. God created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fertile and multiply. Fill the earth and master it. Take charge of the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and everything crawling on the ground." Then God said, "I now give to you all the plants on the earth that yield seeds and all the trees whose fruit produces its seeds within it. These will be your food. To all wildlife, to all the birds in the sky, and to everything crawling on the ground, to everything that breathes, I give all the green grasses for food." And that's what happened. God saw everything he had made. It was supremely good. There was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. The heavens and the earth and all who live in them were completed. On the sixth day, God completed all the work that he had done. And on the seventh day, God rested from all the work that he had done. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all the work of creation. This is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created.
Thank you, Marge.
You're welcome.
I'm going to stop sharing and unmute me. There we go. For our time together, instead of a traditional sermon, James and I are going to have a conversation. I'm not sure how it'll show up on the screen for you all, but James and I have been thinking about creation a little bit. And so what I have are some questions, and I'll put the questions in the email that I send out on Monday so that you can also take some time perhaps to think about your answers to the questions, because they'll be right now just James and my answers to the question. But I also wanted you to know why we're doing Genesis. If you're a lectionary buff, you know it's not necessarily the scripture for the lectionary, but I'm going to, starting today, we're just going to sort of work our way through the book of Genesis, story after story after story. And the reason I've chosen to do that this summer is that the stories were, they're ancient stories. But when the Hebrew people found themselves in exile, after they had become a kingdom and after the temple was built in Jerusalem, they were captured by the Assyrians and then the Babylonians. And while they were held in captivity in Babylon, they were for the first time without the temple, without a sense of belonging. And so they, in that time, wrote down the stories that they had told one another over the generations. And so it was in a time of exile, a time of change, a time of transition and uncertainty that they went back to the ancient stories of creation and relationship with God. And I think that right now, because we've been sheltering in place and taking care of ourselves, but we see others in the world that that's not happening with in the same way, and complexity around that, and as well as all the other unrest, currently the racial unrest here in the United States, it feels a little bit uncertain, like we're at a place where we could imagine a new creation. So that's why I've chosen to go back to this very, very basic story. And so I was wondering, James, what your favorite part of creation is, and if you have a why to that. So you all can be thinking of what your answer is, and we'll hear James's for right now.
Well, my favorite part of creation is how God was creative and unique to create life around the world. And I also like that he made the sun so we could have light and warmth.
Ah, sun. Yeah, the sun is a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And are there parts of the creation that you find funny, or might give us an indicator that God has a sense of humor, or
I don't really know, I guess.
because I always think things like the duckbill platypus. I mean, who made a duckbill platypus? If I was smart and quick enough, I would get Joe on this. But it's a mammal. It is, I think it lays eggs. It has webs. It has a beak. Really? I think it was all the spare parts.
Yeah, or a giraffe.
A giraffe. Why would a giraffe be a sign of God's sense of humor?
Because it has such a long neck. It's so tall and it has a big purple tongue.
Yeah, their tongues are really long, aren't they?
Ticks and mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He even made some critters that aren't so cool.
I made some, I got ticks.
Ticks. Yeah.
Mosquitoes.
Ticks and mosquitoes, right? Those annoying things that are in the world nevertheless. I remember listening to, I think it was a cartoon, part of Sesame Street a long time ago now, and the guy didn't like flies. in the story. He was trying to go fishing and he goes, I don't like these flies. And he kept swatting them and he goes like, I wonder what it would be like without flies. And, you know, every now and then when you're having a picnic or something, you go like, it'd be great with no flies, right? And so the image was created with no flies. And then there was no food for the frogs. And then there was, you know, it was, so it showed in that little thing, like, I don't like mosquitoes particularly. I also don't like mice at all. And I think, oh, the world would be great if we didn't have those. And then you think about it, and God made it so that it all works together. And so I think it's sort of fun to see, to remember, even for those annoying things, but to look and see, what is a giraffe? What are some other critters or things that make you smile when you see them and think, God must have had fun making
I like to see all the different unique type of birds. That makes me smile.
It makes you smile unless you're Eric in Costa Rica and the birds, the parrots, actually come to his bathroom window. And like when there's his window, his shower is a corner window, and the birds like sit there and like watch you take a shower. Or they wake you up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But they're so beautiful, right? Toucans and even just robins. And what's your favorite bird?
I like bluebirds.
Bluebirds, yeah, with their beautiful red and blue. They're so, what's fun about it is that the blue isn't like my shirt where it's always blue. It changes with the sunlight that God also made, right? Is there anything, when you look at all of creation, what do you think God desires? What do you think God would like us to do or think or be about creation?
For balance and for all creatures to live in harmony with each other.
Mm-hmm. And does that work? Are we doing that right now?
No.
No. What are some of the ways we aren't, and maybe a way or two that we are?
Well, we aren't. Can you bring the screen back up?
Oh, sorry.
We aren't because maybe because like how people are rioting right now and making bad decisions and sinning. And then good ways is that some people, not most people though, are trying to follow God and pray and help get rid of COVID-19.
Okay, there's a lot in there. In terms of what people do, you said some people are rioting or there's protests going on right now. And one of the ways that I've learned about the environment and the world and creation is that, you know, we all have garbage, right? You know,
Yeah.
we all have garbage, and not only do we have garbage, but industry has garbage. You know, when you get done making anything, there's usually something left over. Whether there's chemicals or other metal or plastics or things like that. And what I've come to learn is that in communities that are really poor, they oftentimes there's more pollution. All that garbage from industry, like when you're making my shirt and we want to dye it blue, there's chemicals that make that happen, but all the chemicals don't stay in my shirt. So some of the chemicals go out in water or get into residue, like guck. And this is an example. I'm not absolutely sure that this is exactly what happens when you make a shirt, but I know that when I dye things, there's guck at the bottom of the pan, and that guck ends up being placed in communities that are poorer, and a lot of times the people there don't take the opportunity or don't feel they have the opportunity to say, I don't want that stuff in my yard. So, and now when people are frustrated, one of the things, maybe a surface thing that people are frustrated with, is that communities, poorer communities, and often communities with people who are brown and black, are dirtier. And they're not dirtier because people are messy. They're dirtier because industry puts stuff there intentionally. So it's a complicated sort of thing when we look at, you know, why people might be making the decisions they're making right now. But you said there are people who are trying to follow God, and that God would want everything to be in harmony, right?
Yeah.
And what are some of the ways that you know of that people are sort of living that out? Do you know of what kind of things people might be doing that say, you know, I want...
Charities and food drives and donations.
Mm-hmm. And so helping each other out when we have a little bit more to share it with somebody else, so that balances things out, right? How about things like recycling, or not using so much? You guys recycle at your house?
Yeah. Not using so much water also helps.
Mm-hmm. Not using so much water, turn the lights out, drive your car. Well, you don't drive, do you, James? Not yet. But when you get there, think about where you drive and try and make it so that it's, you know, efficient when you do drive. What's interesting is with COVID-19, as annoying as it is to be at home, one of the amazing things, and you guys can check this out if you haven't seen the images online.
Less pollution?
The less pollution. I mean, dramatically less pollution. Cities I saw a picture of a city in India where they had a big monument of some kind, and I don't remember exactly where it is. I'll see if I can find it, put in the email. Where it was before, you could hardly see from where this person was standing, you take a picture and you could hardly see the monument or whatever it was before COVID-19. And now, even just 2 months in, because this picture was that I'm thinking of was taken a little bit ago, the air is cleaner. And what does that mean? I mean, what if we have cleaner air?
Yeah. The earth could last longer.
The earth could last longer. And it shows too that we make what we do, the choices we make, although we don't think they're a big deal, because I just make my little decision to turn the lights out or to not use so much water or take a quicker shower, things like that. You think, oh, it doesn't make much difference because it's just a teeny bit. But when all those teeny bits add up, we can see the change in our environment. So James, you know, one of the pictures while Ms. Marge was reading the scriptures was the earth out in sky, taken from an astronaut's perspective. And when you think of God looking at the earth and all of its creation, what do you think, God, where would be the joy? Where would God see joy? And where would God see sorrow in looking at the earth?
He sees sorrow when people sin and don't follow his commandments,
Mm-hmm.
and don't take good care of the earth. And he sees joy when people follow him and worship him and do what he asks to make the world a better place.
Yeah, and remember, always Jesus asks two things. I think it's the hardest thing. The whole Bible's there, and there's two things we have to do: love God, love God, love God, and love our neighbor as ourselves. And I had somebody that I was talking to this week. They were really sort of struggling, and they were being really hard on themselves. Like, I'm no good. I'm not doing enough. I'm not, you know. They were feeling real upset. And I said, remember, God tells you to do two things. Love God. Do you love God? They said, yes, I do. And then I said, if a friend came to you and said the things you just said to me, what would you say back? And they said, well, if a friend came to me, I'd say, you know, take a breath. I love you. You're okay. We're going to get through whatever the situation is together. And be gracious to yourself. Take care of yourself. And I said, that's what I want you to do to yourself. Because it's not love your neighbor in exclusion of yourself. It's love your neighbor as yourself. Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. So the things you said, James, about food drives and caring for one another and recycling one another for recycling things, those are the way we care for one another. And you said that God would see joy there because it's trying to get us back into balance with things. As a young person, and you look at the world and you've got a lot longer to live than I do, where do you see the things that we should change? What should grown-ups do? What's your advice to grown-ups?
We should really change how we treat the environment, even how we treat each other.
Mm-hmm. And what would that look like? What would your dream be like? We did it. Give me we did it. Here it is. Tell me what that looks like for you.
Probably like world peace back.
About the environment. What would you do?
Well, then world peace. If there's peace, will there be the need for guns and war kinds of things? No, there won't be things like that. So peace is a good place to start. And what else look like? Imagine a day in the world.
Maybe like just no smoking, no littering, no waste, less water running, less electricity being used.
Using only what you need, right?
Yeah, using only like the main things that you need, and recycling lots, and just taking care of the whole earth better.
And what about the way people would be in that place? How would people be with one another? So if we've got the environment, we've taken care of that, and we've made our personal decisions, or like for us, we can make a decision as a church to, recycle. We do recycle, and we do use China cups instead of styrofoam. We do things like something. But we say we've got that figured out. How would it be for the people then? The environment feels good. It's cleaner.
Well, the people, some might not like it because maybe they like to use more water, or like to have a longer shower or something, or they just might even think that garbage is better, that recycling is better. Littering, they could still do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So people would have to continue to make good decisions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and take responsibility for themselves and for the environment. But hopefully that would be good. And I was thinking for our final question about diversity. God made everything. He made a million bazillion bugs and earthworms and ticks and mice and people. And how does all of that, all the way things are diverse, a million plants, a million flowers, a million birds, and each bird living in its own place, in its own way, eating a certain food, how does that give us a clue, or does it give us a clue about?
Because God made everything, since He made that, it's because it's important for everything to be different and unique in its own way and live in harmony with each other.
Yeah. Well, thank you, James. I think this has been very helpful for me to hear your voice, to know what a young person is thinking about the world, and that you're doing it so thoughtfully. And I hope that you have encouraged those who are with us this morning to also think about what their answers to the questions would be. What's the funny creature? What are the things about diversity? And where does God see joy and sorrow? And where is our hope as we look at all of creation? So thank you, James. I really appreciate that a whole lot.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And we'll be back with James in a little bit when we get to communion. But right now I'm going to share my screen again. Our hymn of response is For the Beauty of the Earth. So let me share this again.